It's a Sunday afternoon, and I'm driving back to the rural town where I'm working as a doctor in the local hospital. There's yellow everywhere around me. We haven't gotten very much rain recently in our fields. And there's a sunset that's breaking as I'm driving on the road. As I'm driving along, I notice along the road that there's some trees dotted along the side. There's no road barriers in between. What if I just drift off and have a little accident, nothing too big, just enough that I couldn't go to work? I pull aside. I'm so nervous in that moment of what I was capable of doing to myself. I knew I had to get out of that workplace. I'd heard of burnt out doctors having injuries so they didn't have to go to work, but never did I think that I would be one of them. How did I get here? This is my story of how I went from burnout to right here on this stage. And I'll tell it in 3 parts. Part 1. Let's wind back to 2014. It's a lovely day in my hometown of Brisbane, and I'm at a traffic light. Beep, I wake up. I've fallen asleep at a traffic light for the 2nd time. I knew something was seriously wrong. And indeed, after a slew of tests, and I look glamorous, I'm diagnosed with idiopathic hypersomnia, a condition similar to narcolepsy, where I get uncontrollably sleepy during the day. I need at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night, and medications during the day to help keep me alert. You know those days where you have a really bad night's sleep and you wake up next morning feeling like an absolute zombie? Yeah, that's me, but just about every day. So I make it through the rest of medical school because I have a regular sleep routine, but then I approach work for the first time. I don't know what work looks like for someone like me in my medical condition. I don't know what good work looks like, work that's healthy, engaging, and sustainable. So I do what I think is the most sensible thing, open disclosure. And I speak to the medical administrators at my hospital who look after the residents to tell them probably going to need some accommodations. They treat me with respect, and I have a fantastic first year working as a doctor. This is me in the anatomical pathology lab, cutting up things like appendixes, and me in anesthesiology, or as we call it in Australia, anaesthetics. So feeling great, I decide I want to be the doctor that can do everything. And so I sign up to do some work in rural Australia, or what we call the bush. Approaching this new opportunity, I do what I'd done before. I went to the rural administrators and told them I'd probably need some accommodations. They seemed supportive. But then I get the roster, and it looks a little bit different. I'm rostered for on-call shifts. These are shifts where the hospital can call you up after you've done a full shift already. And I was worried about this because I knew that this would probably overextend what I was capable of doing. But I didn't want to be the squeaky wheel, the problematic resident. And I think at that stage I was unwilling to accept that I couldn't do what other doctors could. This is the first time I ignore my disease. It's now 8 p.m. in my first week of work, and I'm the lone doctor in the emergency department. Patients are flooding in. I have a little old lady who comes in, and she's got a broken hip, so I fight with the hospital up the road to get her transferred. I have a small child that comes in, and they've got a little cut on the forehead. I know that they're just so scared, but geez, those stitches are really hard to put in. It's now 3 a.m. and I have to stay awake for the well-being of my patients. I mean, I could have coffee, but that'll make me quite jittery. That's counterproductive. So I reach for the thing that I know, my medication. I know that this isn't a wise idea, but I have to do it for the sake of my patients. And so as I swallow that pill, I think I just wish that I could have spoken up to anyone, to someone, but I don't feel able to. The 2nd time I ignore my disease. I finally crash into bed, but I'm still under the effect of the medications. I just can't go to sleep. My nausea and hunger just keeps me up. I'm starting to make mistakes at work. A couple of days later, one of the attendings takes me aside and says, "Honor, I think we need to do some clinical coaching sessions." I was being performance managed. I was absolutely mortified. And while I could have mentioned my medical condition, I didn't want it to sound like I was making an excuse for my performance, so I stayed quiet about it. The third time, I ignore my disease. In the following weeks, my sleep continues to be broken. I still remember just walking up to those stairs to the clinical coaching sessions with my eyes swelling with tears. I'm a ball of anxiousness, both at home and at work, and my friends, my family, my husband, all very worried for me. And this is the point where I thought it would be easier to have an accident than to go to work. It was this moment when I woke up, realizing that this type of workplace and work was not right for me and my medical condition. And I needed to find my version of good work that was healthy, engaging, and sustainable. This is my turning point. So where to from here? I seek help. I go to receive help with a careers counsellor, but only when I'm truly honest with myself about my medical condition. My career counsellor suggests that I should look into the creative side of careers in medicine, and it's through that I get the first ever role as a digital health resident at my home health service. And I also get a role as an occupational medicine resident with one of my now mentors, who has taught me how important good work is for good health. I love my jobs in occupational medicine and digital health. Not only are they super interesting, supported, and meaningful, but I feel like a whole person again. I exercise regularly. I start to sleep well at night. I have a lunch break. And in those lunch breaks, I got to think again. On the one hand, in digital health, I saw that my physician colleagues were burning out with just the immense amount of work that they had to do on their computers. This was not good work for them. In the OCMED world, I just learned about hazards in the workplace. And there's one that particularly interests me, one called psychosocial hazards. Psychosocial hazards are things like high job demands or having too much to do, low job control or having little say in how to do your work, and low job resources or not having the tools you need to be able to do your work. Hazards cause sickness. So putting these two things together, my colleagues burning out because of all the work they need to do on their computers and the psychosocial hazard element, I thought, is technology in the workplace starting to make us sick? So to learn more, I applied to Stanford and am accepted to an awesome program in clinical informatics management, combining healthcare, business, and technology, sponsored by Fulbright Australia. I feel so lucky to be here. So I want to share with you a little bit about my time at Stanford and from my personal experience, my part 3. A crucial skill that Stanford has taught me is the value of a reframe. And as a physician, I fixate on illness. But what if instead of work creating sickness, work and the technology that we use at work create health? How might we start designing work and the technology that we use at work with good health as the primary outcome? And how might we do that equitably for everyone? I have 2 answers for that. First, we need work structures for all that facilitates good work, work that is healthy, engaging, and sustainable. Everyone is capable of doing good work, but to do that, we have to empower people to work how they work best for their health. Because there's so many different ways to work. Remote work, asynchronous work, the 4-day work week, and they can all facilitate good health. And good work must be for all. There are so many health benefits to good work, but good work is not afforded to everyone, particularly those with a chronic condition. An Accenture survey of their workplace showed that 20% of those with a chronic condition felt that their workplace was fully committed to helping them thrive and succeed. We know that 50% of Americans and 40% of Australians have a chronic condition or disability. We are not a small group. So we need to normalise accommodations at work to provide good, healthy work for all. From my journey, you'll see that seeking help for accommodations is not easy. Because even with help available, those with chronic conditions or disabilities like me are hesitant to access them because we are so afraid of the discrimination or stigma that comes from speaking up. So, is there another way where the default work is flexible? Or are there tools in the workplace to empower people like me? This leads me to my second point. To create good work with health as the outcome, we need to reassess technology's role at work. How can we leverage it to create good health for all? We need to be considering how technology might be adding more tasks, more interruptions, more stress to the day. So I implore workplaces to ask the question, how might we proactively protect the health of our employees by mindfully choosing the technology that we use? One step in the right direction is by having employee health, technology teams, and organisational development working together to think about the health benefits of the technology they're implementing prior to the implementation. A pragmatic step that workplaces can take is by using a tool called a psychosocial hazard assessment. Unfortunately, I wish that we had more tools that fixated on health at work and technology that we use at work, but this is the best I have at the moment. I'm working on it. And through that, workplaces can start to think about how does technology cause stress at work? How does it increase or decrease the risk of employees feeling disengaged, powerless, and overwhelmed at work? Plus, doing this sort of assessment allows workplaces to create better systems with technology for everyone, which especially enhances accessibility for people like me with a chronic condition or disability. So, I've talked a lot about good health, but what can you do to reap the health benefits of good work? First, have a think about a couple of questions. Why do you work? How do you work best? Write these things down because this is good work for you. And come back to it year upon year to see if your work still fulfills good health for you. Now, my academic mission is figuring out how I can improve health in the workplace for all and how technology might be a part of that. But my personal mission is still on a day-to-day basis, accepting my medical condition and finding my definition of good work. This is still so hard. I mean, I've just had a very stressful quarter, and then on top of that, now I'm doing a TED Talk. I have just the most fantastic friends, family, and particularly my husband, Dan, that support me in this. For those of you with a chronic condition or disability, I see you. I empathise. I know how hard it can be when the world around you tells you you don't look like someone with a medical condition. I had to learn to hold myself gently through this process and embrace my idiopathic hypersomnia, my condition. Once I did that, I woke up to possibility. Thank you.